UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. This is the coming great deception. However, when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. Welcome to another episode talking about the ongoing UFO phenomenon. And today we have a very special guest, fellow board member at Prophecy Watchers and pastor of New City Church, which we used to attend when we lived in Oklahoma City, Pastor Matt Freeman. And we'll get into this, his very interesting UFO encounter, which in some ways mirrors Gary Stearman's UFO encounter. I use that very loosely, but you'll find this really, really interesting. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Gold has surged 46% in less than a year, doubling the gains of NASDAQ and S&P 500. But this isn't just another rally. Global reserves are shifting, exposing cracks in the monetary system. Investors are losing confidence in paper gold and demanding physical metal, creating a massive gap between gold owned and gold available. But this isn't about how institutions broke yet another system. It's about how you can profit from it. Right now, Noble Gold Investments has a limited supply of investment-grade gold bars and coins available. As banks scramble to fulfill their obligations, pushing gold prices even higher, you can profit. Smart investors are already moving into physical gold. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy for you to do the same. And right now, when you make a qualified investment, Noble Gold will add a free 10th ounce gold coin to your order. Folks, there's always a risk with any investment that you may consider, but don't wait until it's too late. Visit www.noblegoldinvestments.com and turn their panic into your profit. Again, noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. We did it a couple of years ago, and folks, I'm really glad we did. noblegoldinvestments.com. So, Pastor Matt, thanks so much for coming on the record. So, you told me about this probably over a year ago, and we're just getting around to doing it. Duh. And sorry about that, Chief. But, okay, so give us the backstory. What happened? Tell us the story.
This was interesting. So this actually happened probably 3 years ago now, and we were studying the book of Daniel in our Bible study group, and we were in Daniel 10 with the angel breaking through for 21 days to get to Daniel when he was fasting and praying, and they led us into studying 2 Kings 16 with Elisha and his servant, and how they're in a house and they're surrounded by the armies and they think they're all alone and they're in the home. And remember, the servant wakes up in the morning and sees the mountainside covered by the enemy armies. And he wakes up Elisha and says, basically, what are we going to do now? We're surrounded. We're toast. This is it. You know, it's the last of the Mohicans or something, last stand. And Elisha, you can hear the cynicism in his voice when he tells him, when he praises the Lord, oh Lord, open his eyes, let's see. And the Lord, sure enough, opens his eyes and he sees behind that spiritual veil, and he sees that the enemy is actually surrounded by chariots of fire that are the good guys there to protect them. And as I was reading that, I had never done this before, but I was on a plane, and I've seen a lot of different UAPs or UFOs or things in my life over time, but I don't know that I've ever seen a chariot of fire, a good guy. And I was on a plane, and I asked the Lord if it was okay with him if I could see one. I just was curious.
So, I don't know. I don't necessarily.
Can I?
Yeah, I don't recommend making prayer, but it was something that I just asked for. And I don't even know why now. I'm thinking back on it. I'm not sure what was piquing my curiosity, but I was in there on a plane. I was flying to Houston, and the whole flight, I was just in anticipation that I'm going to see something. And we're flying the whole time. It's a short flight from Oklahoma City. It's about an hour. And we're up in the air, and I'm sitting at the window, and I'm looking outside the whole time to my right. And and then the pilot comes on, and of course, we're making our initial descent into Houston. Everybody, please put your laptops away, and blah, blah, blah. And I sat there, and I was like, well, okay, Laura, if you didn't want me to see anything, Yeah, that's fine. Maybe on the way home we can see something. And I'll never forget, he whispered in my spirit, just hold on, we're still here. And so I was like, okay. So I'm still looking, and we get into our final descent, about the point where you can start seeing houses and rooftops, and you're coming in, and I'm looking out the window, and something catches my eye straight out ahead, right in front of us. And the sun is reflecting off of it, and it is coming right to us. And I watch it, and sure enough, it's about the shape of the best way I can describe it is about the shape of a bullet. And I know people are going to comment, Matt, why didn't you have your phone out to record this thing? Or why, if you were so certain. I have no idea why. I should have. but it was about the shape of a bullet, and it came, and I had eyes on it for about 5 seconds, because it came right under the wing where I was sitting, and about the shape of a bullet, but the back was more like half of a sphere, kind of a half circle sticking out. And it came right here. There were no windows, no rivets, no bolts, no seams, full metal all the way around. And the sun was glistening off of it. So it was almost translucent is the best way I can describe it. It was almost like a see-through rainbow at times. And you could see all of these colors reflecting off of it. And it came right below the wing, and then it just vanished. It was gone. And that was it. And I was on cloud 9 for about, the full day. It was amazing. I had never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it again. And, you don't, obviously, you're not seeking to make contact with the things. That's clearly forbidden in the Bible. And why the Lord allowed me to see some chariots of fire, like from 2 Kings with Elisha and the servant.
Right.
I have no idea, but it was a really neat experience, and I thanked him for the opportunity. I haven't done anything with it since, other than just share with you, but that's about it.
Let me ask a couple of questions. So, you're coming in on the descent. You see this thing coming at you. It goes underneath the wing. Size, how big?
It was, so underneath the airplane wing, if you think of like a turbine engine that's underneath,
yes,
it was a little longer than that. So if you think of like a turbine engine on a 747, you've got 2 on each wing. If you think about the size of one of those, it was a little bit longer than that, proportionally, but although it was flying quite a bit below us right there.
So it's going to be smaller anyway.
Yeah, so it was going to be smaller anyway. So it was about that size, a little longer. Clearly the pilots didn't see it, because there was no maneuvers or anything like that to avoid something. They just were coming in the whole time. And it's really a good reminder, though, of the spiritual reality that's around us 24/7. The warring that's going on, good angels, bad angels. We know from Revelation 12 that Satan took a third of the angels with him.
Right.
So thankfully we have them outnumbered 2-1, but the Lord is with them. He's always fighting for us. And it's important to remember that warfare is going on and is very real. It's way more real than the world that you and I live in.
I agree. So when you saw this, lack of craft, because it was some sort of metallic object, and this speaks to the whole idea of supernatural technology in the Bible. People have this very truncated view of, we're sitting on clouds and playing harps, not so fast, citizen. And there's definitely technology, and you saw it. Gary Stearman had a very similar, although much, much longer. He had missing time for 3 hours. This thing came right next to him. A couple of months later, or whatever, a period of time, he finally accepted the Lord. That encounter that Gary Stearman had basically led him to Christ. And if you want to see that, folks, it's in the Best of Watchers, L.A. Marzulli, or streaming.lamarzulli.net, or just go to the website and follow that trail. It's in the Best of Watchers series. But, that He said it was like you. There were no rivets, no seams, no nothing. He said it was the most beautiful object he'd ever seen. Would you, tag team to that, or
From a manufacturing standpoint, for sure.
wow.
Way cooler looking than any of the jets or anything that we make and design. Way cooler. There's no means of propulsion.
Yeah.
No jet stream, no heat wave coming off of it, nothing, just moving. And you've talked about this a lot in the past about in gravity waves for transportation and coming out. And I haven't dug into the science behind that to really be able to explain it, but clearly they use some form of propulsion that we don't have access to. I mean, you go all the way back to 2017, 8 years ago now, if you can believe it, when the Tic Tac UFO took off on that video that was legitimate off the USS Nimitz with those fighter jets. Clearly that thing could go in and out of water and heat up to Mach whatever almost instantaneously without propellers or wings or anything. So whatever technology the angels have, I'm totally convinced, LA, that it far surpasses anything that we could even imagine.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
And it's not, we have this kind of truncated view, right? As humans and believers that mankind, we've got it figured out and we've got all the technology and our technology keeps advancing at these rapid paces. And indeed does. But when you compare it to what the Lord has, what God has, and what his armies have, it probably pales in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in for such a treat that it's just going to blow everybody's mind. I mean, I know we get little glimpses like this, and I was talking to my wife Peggy. We came back from the Prophecy Watchers conference last night, and on the way home, I just said, part of me, I'm not morbid about this, but part of me longs to be with him and over there, because it's all love and all goodness all the time. Now, granted, the time of Jacob's trouble, the tribulation, that's a whole different number. But we're not appointed to wrath, and I know we're kind of moving off topic a little bit, but there's that yearning to be with him where there's no sin, no death, no sting of death, no flesh, none of that. But I want to ask you something, circling back to the UFO thing again.
Yeah.
You send me stuff all the time, and we, kibitz on via text messages. You had an encounter fairly recently, a couple of days ago, in the backyard. Tell us about that. And John Adam, I will send you the video of it, so it'll be in our hightail thing, so you can show the folks why Pastor Matt's talking about it. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's about an 80-second video. I think.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
And I was outside at my house in my neighborhood, and I was just looking up, and actually I was looking up and just thanking the Lord for a lot of things. A lot of blessings in our lives, his protection over my family, his guidance in a lot of things. I had just gotten back from the Prophecy Watchers conference myself, and got to meet a lot of neat people. And I was taking some trash out and putting it in our trash can and just getting up at the stars and thanking him, and staying at an extremely high altitude, very high altitude, was just screaming across the sky. And we live not too far from an Air Force base. There's a decent sized airport in Oklahoma City. So there's planes kind of constantly. I see military planes all the time flying around in Oklahoma City. And I'm pretty used to seeing objects flying around at night up there with the blinking lights and all the things, right? But this one caught my eye because it was moving very fast. I was looking at stars. It looked about the size of a star from the distance, about the same ratio. But it was just streaking across the sky. And I was sitting there watching it, and I got my phone, and I thought, I wonder if I could zoom in on this and really see what it is. And I kept zooming in, and you can see in the video that LA will show in a second, you can see it go all the way in, and it's almost translucent. You can see, and I'll zoom in and out of the video so you can see the scale of how far away it was. But it's all kinds of different colors reflecting. And if you look up close enough, it's like a ball, but it keeps almost expanding in different directions as you watch it. Almost like the best way to describe it is if you thought of like a cell dividing into two, but it doesn't divide, pulling up, and then it comes back together, and then it'll rotate and pull out and come back together. And it just was flying across the sky. So of course I took the video and texted it to you, and I was like, what do you think about this? And you said CE1 for sure. Rebuke first and ask questions later. So we prayed over the city and the land and everything, but these things are out there all over the place.
Let me ask you something. Could it have been a satellite? Did it stop? Did it make any turns? Did it do anything like that?
It never turned. It never stopped. It was going in direction. And I've seen Starlink satellites a lot out in the sky. And they seem to, if you watch them closely, they seem to follow almost like an orbital trail.
Yeah.
Because they're following an orbit around the Earth. And so they don't, whenever I've seen them at least, they don't seem to move in a straight line, if that makes sense. They seem to kind of curve around as they're going. And this thing was just going straight across, just flying in a straight, as best as I could tell, at least.
Right. Wow. Well, you and I, you're always sending me stuff. Hey, what do you think about this? And I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you feedback. Not that I'm the world's expert, but I've been doing this for decades. And and of course Richard Shaw. We know what lens flares look like because of Rick. And Dr. Roger Lear's Kumbergaz UFO video, in my opinion, is still the best UFO footage I've ever seen, because it shows the beings inside the craft. They're sitting there, and that goes on for hours. And it's not a hoax, folks. It's not. But I'll give you the last word. Matt, thanks so much for coming on the record. Really cool.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone. You talked about, you talked about a minute ago how you're longing to be with him.
Amen.
On the other side. And I just want to encourage everyone that in John 14, Jesus went to prepare a place for us. And he even says, and if I go to prepare this place, I will come again to gather you to me, so that where I am, you may be for always. And he's speaking of the rapture of the church and the gathering of his people. And we need to be watchful. From Mark, Jesus said, what I say to you, I say to all, watch. And that's a lot of what we do at these conferences. That's a lot of what we do at New City Church, where I have the privilege to teach the Bible every Sunday, just go through that. And the Lord is looking for people that are hungry and passionate about his business, not their own business.
That's right.
And looking for people that, and he even said, he sarcastically said, when I come back, shall I find faith upon the earth? And he's looking for people that in this age of Laodicea, the very end of the church age, will there be a remnant that stands up, that is not ashamed of him, that will not back down from his word, that will not bow a knee to the world, will not cave on what the Lord taught in terms of living out a holy, righteous life, glorifying to him. That's what it's about. And we've got to be, as believers, to finish strong. Just like unfortunately Solomon did not finish strong. David did in a lot of ways, because he was repentant and coming back to the feet of the Lord. And we've got to finish well and stay the course. And as the Lord admonished us, do not grow weary and do well. And a lot of times on this road as Christians, you can grow weary because you feel like you're fighting constantly. You're in this spiritual warfare. Right. The more you read about it, the more you recognize the attack of the enemy, how real it is around you all the time, and it can wear on you.
Oh,
so get to the feet of Jesus.
Yep.
Let him refresh you and replenish you. Don't grow weary in doing well, and finish strong. Because whether the rapture happens in our lifetime or not, none of us are going to see the next 100 years. We'll all be out of here before then. Everyone that's alive. And so our time is short here to make an impact.
Yeah, life is short, life is fragile. Pastor Matt, thanks so much for coming on the record. God bless you, sir. Really appreciate it. Folks, there you have it. If you've got footage like, what you're seeing with Matt is a close encounters of the first kind. So there's a light way out there, not sure what it is. The kum UFO is right in your face, and I think it's an abduction. So there's definitely categories, excuse me, when you look at these objects. Close encounters of the third kind, you see the occupants in the craft, which is what we show in Kumberg. The fourth kind is when you're actually interacting. The fifth kind is when you're calling him in. Don't do that. Don't engage in close encounters of the fifth kind. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back again. Remember, UFOs are real, versioning, not going away. This is the coming great deception. But when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. Thanks for watching.